I'm Bruce A. Parr, and this is Frank J. Rich, and you're watching Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog.
Now you see some credits and...
Yeah, right. Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog is a weekly community affairs show where we bring you the most interesting people we could find who talk about all the good things they're doing in the community and maybe even one of your neighbors. And if you'd like to nominate somebody to be on the show, or maybe nominate yourself for that matter, you can just email us at editor@chasemediagroup.com. And today, we're very happy to welcome Glyn Hearn. Glyn, welcome. Who is the headmaster of Soundview Preparatory School that happens to be based where we're based as well, where Chase Media Group is based in Yorktown Heights. But of course, Glyn, your students come from a pretty broad region throughout the Hudson Valley, right?
Right.
I mean, it'll be actually interesting, like what's the furthest point of origin for your students? Like, you know, where does
we have students who come all the way from in Connecticut.
Okay.
Next year we'll have some students coming to us from New York City. So that's about as far as it gets, I guess.
And I guess in that case, because you are a private school, or I guess one of the other words is independent school, right?
Right.
So then in that case, they'd have to provide their own transportation, right, to get to the school.
Yes.
Yeah.
We help them arrange it, but they have to provide it.
Right. And Soundview has been in existence since 1989. Right. Which means, I wasn't the best math student, but I could figure out that means that next year you're celebrating your 25th anniversary.
That's right.
Yeah. Do you have anything special planned for that, by the way?
We haven't yet, but we will have celebrations all through the year for it.
Right. And Soundview is your creation. You founded it.
I founded it.
And so maybe we could start off, Glyn, by just telling us quickly a little bit of your background, your professional or educational background. I mean, for example, an obvious question is, did you attend a private or preparatory school?
No, the truth is I attended public school, and I was not a good student in public school. I hated it. And Soundview is partly a reaction to my not liking the situation I was in public school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a very, very frank admission.
But what was it? Yeah, well, I was going to ask, what was it? And if you can encapsulate, what was it about public school that you felt didn't work for you?
I was in large classes. I didn't feel that teachers knew me or were especially interested in me, and therefore I was not especially interested in the subjects that they taught. And I simply never worked up to capacity in a public school setting.
Oh, wow. And so did you single-handedly create the whole concept for Soundview, or did you consult with other people, educators, and how did that come about? How did your model for Soundview come into existence?
The school came into existence as I was approached by a group of families in Westchester who were interested in starting an independent school, who were looking for something different. And I guess the ideals for the school came from me primarily. I was interested in having a school in which there were actual relationships between students and teachers, in which students felt known and validated and cared about, in which we held up certain ideals, and that was how the school began. And
so currently you were telling Frank and I your enrollment is at about 60, although it could go up to 80, right? And so what is the ratio of faculty to students?
There are 60 students and about 20 teachers. So it's a
3
pretty
to 1.
low
Yeah.
ratio.
Right. And what about the average class size?
I would say the average class size is 7. Some go down to about 3. Some go up as high as 12.
Right. And in comparing it, I think the logical thing for anybody watching this with children who are now or used to be in public school is the comparison, of course. So we heard about the class size, which is vastly different than public schools, and the faculty to student ratio is dramatically different. But what about the actual the classroom experience? I mean, for example, in a mundane sense, are the classes the same length, or what are they in 40, 45 minutes, right, in public school, that type of thing? How does it compare to public school structure?
The approach is a very traditional approach. The classes are about the same length. The big difference is that the classes are small enough that the teacher is interacting with everybody in the classroom and seeing whether students are understanding the material, getting the notes, doing the homework and doing it well, etc. So that's the real difference.
Right.
So that difference is made possible by, I'm sure, an alignment not atypical of organizational goals, in which you establish the goals for behavior and interaction with the students and with the administration and its purpose. You prepare an execution culture. You align those goals with both the students and the teachers, and you assess and reassess based on some accountability.
Right.
Yeah. And is that a model that you use, and how do you install that with so many different ideas, especially those from individuals who have taught in other places and find themselves in a very unusual place? Do you go out and test, do litmus tests on your teachers, or what is it that you do that helps them get there?
Well, we try to be very careful in terms of whom we bring into the school. But I think what happens is that teachers, even if they're coming to us from a public school situation, find this so different and find themselves so much more involved with knowing the students and working with them individually that they adjust to the school and to the atmosphere of the school.
Right.
So you feel as though it would appear to me you've identified something in the human condition that's perhaps hidden in plain sight that people ought to have seen, but perhaps the public school and other private schools have not been able to manage effectively?
I think especially the public schools, the intent is certainly to do a wonderful job for everybody. The difference is that nobody at Soundview falls between the cracks. We're able to validate every student. We're able to talk about the strengths students have, and we're able to look at where they have problems or needs and address those and do it honestly, because they're in an environment that's safe, where they're not competing against each other, but they're doing their personal best, and that's the atmosphere of the school.
Does it? I'm very curious about this particular aspect of it, because it sets up a model, so to speak, that assumes or either creates or encourages and creates behavior in individuals uncommon in the marketplace. In most cases, we are a nation of people with high anxiety and low self-esteem, and you are preparing an environment in which people will grow one and manage the other very effectively. How do you do that? How is that accomplished, especially because they come from other places where it isn't the case?
Well, that's certainly our goal. I think students who come into the school feel relieved, sort of, to be out of the rat race, whether it's social or academic pressure that they've been dealing with. They come into the school and it's a very relaxed, informal sort of atmosphere. They know that they're cared about. If a problem comes up, we're able to address it immediately. So if two students have a quarrel, I probably will know about it and will probably be trying to help them resolve it one way or another. It's a school in which the two things that we emphasize most, I guess, as qualities are honesty and kindness. So it's not cool at Soundview to be aggressive or to be intimidating to other people. It's cool to be nice and respectful, and I think the students appreciate it because it relieves them of the sort of pressure that they felt in different situations.
I mean, not to, especially after that really nice, description. I hate to bring this up, but it's again, it's an inevitable question. Has a student ever been expelled for crossing the line, so to speak, and being disrespectful in a pattern?
Yes.
Right. Right. I mean, I guess it's going to happen anywhere. You're not going to have 100%
actually real people there.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. But I just want to read, Glyn, because I think this will, it reinforces what you've already said, but this is off of your website, which is soundviewprep.org, for anybody watching who would like to check that out. And so one of the things that it does say on your website in terms of describing the environment of the school and the culture is, at Soundview, students thrive in a non-competitive setting that stresses individual responsibility, ethical values, and solid relationships with fellow students and faculty. Students build self-esteem in a setting where they feel recognized and validated, laying the groundwork for success. And actually, at our company, I know Frank always emphasizes ethical values, and in looking at your curriculum, I didn't see that there's necessarily a discrete course on ethics, right?
Right.
So the question is, how is it? I mean, you've already, I think, told us some of this, but how is that woven into the curriculum as well as the clubs and activities and other things that go on at the school, even outside the classroom?
It's something that we talk about with the whole school on occasion, and it's something that we talk about frequently in small groups. I think students come in at this point and the atmosphere is so settled in terms of what it is that they see that they have to adjust to it, or that they don't need the defenses that they've had in other situations. The one thing a student can come in and do to be not rejected, but kind of removed from the community is to be really aggressive or to put other people down, or to be hostile towards teachers. Those things just don't work in this school.
Right.
Do you qualify those students before they begin attending the school?
We do our best to, yes.
You do?
Yeah, and we're pretty good at it at this point.
Yeah, I won't ask you to go into that, but I just assume that it's a friendly process.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things, actually, in terms of headline news, you might say, in Peekskill, and we happen to be recording the show in the Cablevision Peekskill studios, there is what fairly could be called a controversy right now about a charter school that a group of individuals wants to establish in Peekskill as an alternative to the public school, and that has created a real stir, especially among the teachers in the public school district, the teachers union, who are adamantly opposed to it. But one question I have, and charter schools, of course, in other places in the country have gotten a lot more recognition lately. How does your school or any other private school like yours differ from a charter school? Because the charter school is an alternative as well.
Yeah, it is an alternative as well. I think charter schools are founded with some particular goal in mind. So they're for a particular purpose, for engineering, for example.
I mean, like a trade school.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know how the population is screened for charter schools. I know that not everybody gets into one.
And it's a voucher system.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it's a different population and maybe a different kind of kid who goes there.
Right. But in terms of, let's call it the public perception of private schools or prep schools, I mean, the stereotype is that they're for the privileged few. I mean, do you feel that's accurate and fair?
No, I don't. I would say that our population consists primarily of people who are coming to us from public schools who haven't necessarily intended to put their child in an independent school, but for whom something hasn't been working in the public school community, and so the children are unhappy or unsuccessful for one reason or another. We have a very generous financial aid program, so we don't have just a group of wealthy children who've opted out of the public school system because they want to be in a more homogeneous group. We have a group of students who look on the surface very much like a public school group, I think, who have all sorts of backgrounds, but who are there because they've been unhappy in that situation.
Right. And you do say, in fact, Glyn, on your website that students of color comprise 15% of the student body, and that 30% of students receive need-based financial assistance, which actually may come as a surprise to people who think, it's only, like I said, wealthy people who send their children to private schools. So you're saying that is not the case?
No, it's not the case.
Yeah. And then I'm also very interested in terms of sports. And you say that you do have soccer, co-ed basketball, that's which you don't find really in public schools, although every so often you'll hear in the news a girl plays on a boys' team, in a rare exception. So soccer, co-ed basketball, and of course, one of the oldest sports known to mankind, ultimate frisbee.
Yes.
I think the Greeks started that, didn't they? The frisbees were a little heavier back then. But how do but where you're located in Yorktown, which used to be the Beaver Farms, right?
Yes.
Yeah. There's no playing fields there, and as far as I know, there's no basketball courts. So how do you accommodate, the playing surfaces?
Well, we have a couple of small fields, but they're not big enough to be soccer fields,
right.
For example. So we use the park system for soccer, and we go to the Roosevelt Park and play our games there and do our practices there. We go to the Solaris Club
for
in
basketball.
Yorktown for basketball and for gym. For frisbee, we do the same thing. We use the park to practice and to host games.
And then what about other interscholastic contests with other private schools, or there's Harvey around here, Hackley, places like that?
We haven't engaged in many interscholastic contests at this point.
Right. I mean, and what about, again, from the students' standpoint, have they asked about that? Do they want to? Because that arguably could be something that they feel is missing from the private school experience that is very prominent in public schools, is the whole sports culture and playing other schools and cheerleading and everything that goes with it. I mean, do the students really care about that? I mean, because you could say also, that some people, to a certain extent, myself included, feel that sports maybe gets inordinate attention in public schools. I mean, I've spoken about it in relation to the performing arts, where sports is up here in terms of budgeting and attention and recognition, and sometimes the performing arts is down here. So I'm curious how that is in your school.
Our sports program is unusual in that anybody who wants to be on a team and is willing to come to practices is accepted onto the team, and that's one reason we've ended up with co-ed teams.
Right.
our goal is to go out from the school and win. But because we let people of various ages and various levels of expertise play on the teams, winning may not be as important as just the experience of playing the sport. And
So is that, so that becomes also part of the non-competitive
well, we
ethics, so
don't
to speak,
consider
I mean?
ourselves non-competitive with outside entities. We know that students are going to leave the school and they're going to go to college, and
Right.
they're going to have to be able
Right.
to compete in that situation. And so what we think is that by helping them look honestly at themselves and know what they need to work on and know where they're really strong, and by feeling confident about who they are and knowing that they're coming out of an atmosphere where they've been valued, they do better than they would if we simply threw them into a competitive situation and said, sink or swim, this is the way it is.
Right. So in other words, there's a certain former Rutgers coach who probably wouldn't be getting a job at Soundview anytime soon.
Yeah, probably not.
Or any other school for that matter, right?
Well, the assumption is that that much of that is prepared in the home, despite the New York State mandate that teachers are responsible for the moral development of their students and not parents. It's a dynamic that's at play with the students. How do you actually, from a practical point of view, help them see themselves honestly? I would think that you'd have an arbitration with parents over that issue.
Well, we do consult with parents, certainly, heavily. But I think the first step in helping somebody really look at himself or herself honestly and openly is to make the person feel safe and know that that individual is in a community where he or she is respected, and where the way the person feels is important. And then we go from there.
Now, is this against a backdrop of a fairly typical social experience in our society, schools, teenagers, who tend not to feel very safe in their environment, in their skins, and is that a normal rite of passage? And if so, how do you reconcile that with them?
Well, I would say for the college-bound group in general, and maybe in Westchester in particular, children are coming out of such a competitive environment that admitting a weakness or a difficulty is very difficult to do. And we try to remove that
Difficulty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about that, I find, because I think maybe even written about it in other circumstances, that to me, admitting a weakness is a strength. Right, is what you're saying. It's not a weakness; it's a strength to be able to say, okay, and then work on it.
Exactly.
Yeah, right, yeah. But one of the things, Glyn, that I found most impressive and enlightening on your website came from the comments of your alumni, the students who graduated, and the comments that were made. I mean, they, I understand because we're involved in marketing too, that you, of course, would pick out the best ones. But despite that fact, they're very mature comments in terms of their self-knowledge and, just the way they're written. Unfortunately, these days we're not always used to seeing great grammar from students. So but one of them I just wanted to quickly read from Tanner Lewis, a graduate in 2011. Soundview promotes a non-competitive learning style without the constant pressures that public school forces on the student. Another one that I found very interesting is Nick Levoff, who just graduated last year. Discipline is forged, dreams are achieved, and potential soars. He should be a copywriter for an advertising agency. But discipline is forged. The reason I picked up on that is to me, there's a distinction between discipline is forged and discipline is forced, right?
Right.
What he's saying is it evolves, like what you just said, it evolves within themselves. It's not somebody who's telling them, you're going to do this or else. They're taught to figure it out on their own, basically, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And is that the sum and total of it, or you're actively involved in forging a consensus over what discipline they would see as appropriate to them under circumstances? Those circumstances registered by some standard? How do you do that?
Well, I think all the students and all the faculty are aware of the basic rules of the school, the basic disciplinary expectations. If somebody lapses or falls outside of what we expect, then instead of simply throwing the book at the person, there's a lot of consultation that goes on. There's consultation with parents that goes on. You asked me a little while ago if I'd ever had to expel a student, and I have. But that's not done in anger. It's not done without letting the student know that we're doing this with great regret. So students who've been asked to leave the community still come back and visit. We don't go around talking about the rules all the time.
Right.
But everybody knows what they are, basically.
Are they simple enough to repeat here, or?
Well, courtesy and kindness
Okay.
sum it up. As long as somebody is acting courteously and kindly toward other people and doing the work that is required for the courses, then the person is operating within the norms of the school.
Okay. Yeah, we only have a couple of minutes left, but I just wanted to quickly ask you, what's the purpose that you do not use grade point averages? Right? Is that true? You don't use grade point averages?
No, we do use grade point averages. We don't, on the transcript that goes to colleges,
Right.
we don't list the student's grade point, and we don't rank in class.
Oh, so there's no number one, number two in class. Yeah.
Right.
I graduated first in my class. Oh, so you don't
Congratulations.
do that? No, I'm no, I was.
He's projecting.
Yes, right.
So
I don't think I was close to being first.
you do not list or state the GPA of the student.
Right.
When you deliver their transcript, you deliver a
Right.
transcript, so
Right.
they can see the performance of the student.
Yeah, and so when colleges ask, we simply say we don't rank, period.
Okay. Yeah, now
So
I
you
know
leave
we
the
do.
ranking to them.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. Anyhow, thanks very much, Glyn, for
it's
being
a
with us,
pleasure.
and yeah, much success. Again, it's soundviewprep.org, and on April 14th, there's an open house if you wanted to check that out, right, in Yorktown Heights. And we want to remind you that Frank Talks with Bruce the Blog is brought to you by the Penny Saver and our parent company, Chase Media Group, and we thank our CEO, Carla Chase, and Frank J. Rich for putting us up on the show every week. And remember to check us out also on YouTube at townlinktv.com. Well, no, that's not right. It's YouTube at Townlink TV. You could also go to Townlink TV, townlink.com, which is a website that you definitely want to check out because there's a lot that's going on there as we continue to expand it, and there'll be a lot more that you'll see at townlink.com. So remember, when Bruce the Blog listens, people talk. Thank you.